So I was kind of doing my own thing, you know, trying to be a good mom, working really hard, nose to the grindstone, and just kind of making things work. And all of a sudden, disco came about. So me and my girlfriends decided to get into the groove and go out and dance and all of that, and that's how I met Leo.
Okay.
Was at a disco club. He was supposed to be introduced to a friend of mine, and they didn't wind up getting along, and so then we started talking, and we kind of said, hey, I kind of like you, I kind of like you. And we had a very short courtship. We met like in October of 75 and got married in March of 76.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But you know how those sparks fly and they say that true love is there, you kind of know it. Well, we kind of knew it. Yeah. He just enjoyed being out. He enjoyed the people, so he was a busybody. I was kind of shy then. I was kind of more reserved. And so I liked it because he was the busybody. You know, he would go around and visit with everybody and talk to everybody, and he just enjoyed to be there. You know, he really, you could tell he enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Whether he danced or not, he still wanted to go around and talk to everybody, and he knew everybody, and so it kind of drew me to him. I thought, well, who is this guy? You know, why is he like so popular? I gotta find out. Of course, he was dressed very modern and, you know, kind of attracted me. His big old disco wedge boots and stuff. I had to go through some classes to get confirmed in Greek Orthodox religion.
Yeah.
And we had our big fat Greek wedding. Very simple as far as the wedding itself. It's a long ceremony. It has a lot of symbolism in what they do to unite the two to one. And it was very beautiful. And we just did a small reception. Of course, at the last minute, he throws out, oh, by the way, we have to at least do one Greek dance. And I panicked because, okay, what's that? And so we're out in the parking lot at the reception with him and his brothers and I for me to learn how to Greek dance at the last minute. When I first started, because I was kind of unsure about being out on the floor, I was actually in the kitchen helping him. That didn't last very long because, like you said, you've got tension. He would tell me to cook it this way, and I'd say, well, I think it should be this way. And he'd say, well, I'm the one that's a chef. And we'd get these little spats going, and then it was like, okay, all right, I'll do it your way. And so we eventually finally decided that wasn't working very well.
Yeah.
And so I would go out on the other side. I went out onto the other side.
So that was the solution.
So that was the solution, is put me out there. And there were those days that we'd still have some little disagreements on how I thought something might be handled or he thought something would be handled. And there might have been a few silent cuss words as I'd go by the kitchen. And then I'd smile, you know. I'd come back and I might cuss at him again and smile and go back out to the customers. So I enjoyed being there with him and seeing what he loved to do. I think that made it easier. Because we lived so far away, we had about a half an hour of time on the way home to say, well, how did your day go? What did you come up with today? What are you planning on tomorrow? Right. And we'd work through all those things on the way home, where if he would just come home, it would have been where we didn't have that time because he would have been tired, I'd have been tired, and we'd been ready to go to bed and start the next day.
So was that kind of a routine? You guys always drove home after the end of the night together? And...
Oh yes, we carpooled, which made it, that was kind of an agreement when we decided to move to the foothills. If we move up here, then we're carpooling every day. It worked out kind of nice in that respect. And you get to know your spouse better.
Yeah.
You know, and that was a good thing, I think. My health being that I'd always had to deal with cancer myself, I always made him do regular checkups and make sure he stayed healthy and such. And so, of course, the men's prostate stuff was always an issue. And so I says that was number one I wanted to make sure he took care of. So one year, 2002, I guess it was, he was normal. Everything was fine. 2003 came along and his checkup came. And for a man, a PSA level normally is around a 3-4 area, which they consider normal, and there's no problems. But it didn't seem to be having any problems, and he took his PSA level, and it was in the 400s. And so, of course, the doctor immediately sent him to see a specialist and such. And they basically, at that point, kind of said, well, this doesn't look very promising. I think the hardest was because he lost his energy. I didn't think it was going to affect me like this. Okay. Good place.
Okay.
He started to get where it was very hard for him to get around because the cancer then had gone from the prostate into some of his into his bones, which made it then very difficult to get around. But he still wanted to go into work every day. He had a sports car, which he couldn't get in and out of, so he took my Mercedes. For me and the kids, I felt it was more of a dignified, if you want to call it that, a dignified way to go. That whole end of life and someone having to take care of you isn't very pretty. And so it was an easier way for us to deal with it, I think, than seeing him, having to have hospice and, just going into a coma and dying.
Yeah.
And so it was quick, but it was unexpected to that point because I already have a little bit more time left.
Yeah.
And so that part for us I felt was easier, but it was still hard. Yeah. His bucket list was to go to Jean Georges in New York, in the Trump Towers. So we went January of 2004, which was he was still, at that time he was pretty much feeling a lot of the effects. And he decided that's where we're going. Like, okay, we'll go. Well, if you can do it, we'll go.
Yeah.
We barely made it in because of snow. We barely made it out because of snow. But we made it to Jean Georges and Trump Towers, and he got to have his meal there. And it was one of those bucket list things because I would probably never do it in the sane world. They had price fixed menus. They had 2 of them. He decided we were doing both of those menus. And we started in the bar with a bottle of champagne, which was our favorite. And we moved on into dinner, and we asked the server or actually the sommelier, to actually pair every course with something. And so he did. Good thing there's taxis.
I was going to say, how'd you make it out of there?
Good thing there are taxis. You never drive yourself in New York. And we enjoyed probably a 4-hour dinner from start to finish. And $700 and something later, he got his bucket list. But it's like you lose like half of you. At first you don't think it's real. You think they're going to walk in the door. And it's like a repeat scab. You'll do good. And then something will spark, and it could be out of nowhere. Like today. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It really isn't a bad thing. It's just something that you deal with. Because you have to go on. And so, and I'll tell you, it isn't easy. You have to kind of ease into that because you have to get your mind back thinking. And I think work helped a lot because it kept me on something else. But then again, I'd come home and then here I am. And so it was getting almost kind of depressing because you have nothing to do. You have no one to talk to. I mean, those 30-minute drives home, I realized how therapeutic those were when I didn't have them anymore. And so I'd still talk, in the car. And then I finally decided, okay, either you're going to be here at home and depressed all the time, or you're going to try to go out. And that was a big thing because, you're going out by yourself. I was 50 years old. It's like, oh my God, I haven't been out since I was 21, and it's like, what are you going to do? Scary, very scary. But it was difficult because you just don't know how to take that first step. And being that I like people, it got a little easier because then I started meeting more people. And it's kind of creepy, as my kids say, because we have a headstone that has his picture and my picture, so my kids get kind of creeped out because my picture's on there already.
Yeah.
But I still like to go and just kind of chit-chat and keep it clean and so forth. He was kind of simplistic to a certain extent, so I don't like to take fresh flowers. He'd rather me clip some of my oregano, or actually the oregano has a story in itself. It was from his father who had grown it at home, and so it's a homegrown oregano that is to die for, and he used it at the restaurant. I mean, it's not like those jarred things, and it's much fresher, has a much more flavorful. He'd rather me clip that and put it there than probably flowers. So I'll clip some rosemary or oregano and take it, and I'll go visit and have my little peace and time, and it's sporadic, you know. I'll go maybe every week for 3 weeks, and then okay, can't go no more.
Yeah.
It's just whenever I feel like I need to say, hey, what you doing?
Yeah.
Are you and your dad up there cooking?